Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Dark back again here, and going to be the second video of the tutorial series that I'm going to be doing, and this one's actually going to be on team building. One that's probably brought up quite a lot for quite a few people. I know that team building is an issue that a lot of people have trouble with, even myself to a certain extent. Considering how difficult it is to build in this meta right now, I have been having some trouble team building. But I'm going to just go through the basic process and see if I can help a few of you out. Now, before you start anything with the team building, there's two links that you don't necessarily need them, but they're really helpful if you're new to the metagame or if you don't have much knowledge of it. And I know that Joey did show his these links in his video, and it's going to be looking somewhat similar, but I didn't want to leave them out. Basically, they're really helpful, and I don't really care if this video is similar to his. I really want to help you out the best I can. So this is the first link. I'll leave it in the description. It's basically the viability ranking thread, which basically shows the usage of different mons in the OU tier, and it ranks them. It gives them different ranks based on how well they perform in that tier. So for S rank, say, it's reserved for Pokemon that are amazing in the OU metagame. These Pokemon are usually able to perform a variety of roles effectively, or can just do one extremely well. Their use has low risk involved, and high reward exerted. Pokemon in this rank have very few flaws that are patched up by numerous positive traits. So you've got mons like Greninja, Landorus T, probably two of the most common mons in OU right now, Latios, Metagross, Mega, Thundurus. So it's basically just something that you find out what are the biggest threats in OU, what you've got to prepare for when building a team, and it's just really helpful if you don't know too much about the metagame. So I'll leave this link in the bottom below. The second one that you will not necessarily need again, but it's really helpful, is a damage calculator. This allows you to calculate or just basically create spreads for the mons that you put on your team. Just to create like optimal spreads instead of just maxing out 252 attack, 252 speed or whatever. You can say put a certain amount into a speed so you outspeed a certain mon, and if you don't need to outspeed anything past that, you can put the rest into HP and hey ho, you've got more bulk. So it's basically it's all about optimization when building a team, really, when using the calc. And this is also an updated calc, so if you don't have a link to this, I'll leave it in the description below. But this has, I'm pretty sure, like all the megas in. Say if I look up Altaria, it's got Mega Altaria there and most of the sets that it can run, which is actually great at the moment since the old calc does not have this. So I'll be sure to leave this link in the description below. But just going to get up onto the first step of team building. So the first thing you want to do before you actually build your team is to basically decide what kind of team you'd like. There are quite a few different types of teams, being hyper offense, bulky offense, offense, balanced. There is stall, there is semi-stall. So there's quite a lot of options, and I'll be going through some of the main ones in this video. I think I'll go through stall, balanced, and hyper offense just because it's kind of like stall is the bulky side, balance is in the middle, hyper offense is at the more offensive side. So I guess I feel it just covers most of the different types of teams. So okay, well, getting into the team, first thing you want to do after you've decided what kind of team you like, I'm going to be building hyper offense first, is going to be deciding what mon you want to build around. And for this video, I'm actually going to build around something that I quite wanted to use in this metagame. Since stall is kind of common, Sableye is a thing, and Charizard is just really, really good right now, so this is definitely something that I'm going to want to be building around. It's going to be Charizard X, so I'll give it the Charizard X right there. I'm going to make it a Dragon Dance set just because that's the set that offense most benefits from. And I'm going to put Outrage on there just to hit things like Quag harder, 2-hit KO Quag if I remember correctly. And then just going to put Earthquake on there just because it's an offensive spread. Rooster probably be appreciated, but Earthquake just hits so much at the moment, and it's really nice on there, especially things like Mega Diancie, which can take both a Flare Blitz and are completely immune to Outrage, so that's not good. So Earthquake is definitely good at the moment, and obviously last move is going to be Dragon Dance. And normally DD Zardexes run Adamant, but for this set that I'm actually going to be using Jolly, just because it outspeeds Scarf Landorus T, which is absolutely amazing. And I believe all I need is 188 speed to outspeed max speed Scarf Lando T. So this is what the calc is good for as well, guys. You can use Showdown as well. Say, I'll just use this as a quick example. If I get up Landorus T spread, because this is the fastest thing I need to outspeed at +1. If I just say if it doesn't matter if it has a choice scarf or not. If I just give it max speed, it ends up having 309, and I'm pretty sure that the closest number to that I can get that's higher than it is 311. So that's the only amount of EVs. I think if I put it up one more, let's see. If I put it up one more. Oh no, if I lower it one. Okay, so it can have 310. So you can. I think I can run 184. Alright, so my spread was actually non-optimal then on my other team, but yeah, that's basically so you can just pull up a mon, put max speed on it, see how much you need to outspeed it, and then just go from there. And obviously max attack just for hitting things harder, and then put the rest into HP, and that gives it an odd HP number. This is something else that you want to make sure you do. If you have a mon that's 4 times weak to rocks, or just weak to rocks in general, always make the HP number odd, which means it takes less from the rocks, which is always appreciated from a mon like Charizard. It means it doesn't die to 2 rocks. Okay, so for my second mon, I'm actually going to be using a Suicide Lead Azelf. Suicide Leads are pretty much on every single Hyper Offense team, since guaranteed rocks are really appreciated just to put on extra pressure onto your opponent's team, which is obviously what Hyper Offense is all about. Just putting on constant pressure. So I'm going to give it a Focus Sash because obviously I want to make sure that I get my rocks up, and Azelf is one of my most favourite Suicide Leads, to be completely honest, because it just outspeeds so much with base 115, and not much can really taunt it, apart from like a lead Aerodactyl, which is never seen. So obviously going to give it the Stealth Rocks. Going to give it Taunt just to prevent rocks against my side. I do have a Charizard here, and I don't really want rocks on my side of the field. And then I'm going to give it Explosion. And I'd normally run Fire Blast in the last spot just for things like Ferrothorn, but with Taunt, there's not really much reason to hit them, considering I'm also running a Charizard, which can send out Ferrothorn to the Shadow Realm. But there's quite a cool set that I saw. I saw on a replay from someone. I can't quite remember who it is, so I can't credit them. So sorry about that. If you see this video, you probably won't know, but that's another thing. But it was actually Skill Swap. Now this is great because mons like Sableye and Diancie beat Azelf lead just because they can Mega and they have Magic Bounce. So if I go for Skill Swap, then I attain Magic Bounce and they get my ability, which is Levitate, which is obviously completely useless when trying to prevent hazards. This means that I can then get up my own rocks. And it's also good if there's a Magic Bounce. I'm not sure if there is. I'm pretty sure there isn't, but if there's a Magic Bouncer that can get up rocks, I can obviously Skill Swap them, and rocks are on their side of the field, and then I can go for Boom, which is great, but I'm pretty sure there aren't. But it's just basically just for getting guaranteed rocks against mons like Diancie and Sableye, and it's like you look at the viability thread, you see what's common, and you prepare for it, which is what I'm doing now. So I'm going to give it a Jolly Nature, max speed, max attack, just so that Explosion does the most damage it possibly can, and then the 4 defense, well, the 4 extra EVs aren't really useful, but just pop them in a random defense or something. I never usually pop them in HP just because of what I said before. It's always nice to take less from rocks. So I'm going to go on to the third mon. So for the third mon, I'm actually going to pick what I think is one of the best Pokemon in OU right now, especially on offensive teams, which is actually going to be Greninja. Now the reason why I'm putting this on the team is just because it hits so much of the metagame right now, and it breaks really well for my other mons. Say, it baits in Ferrothorn, and it can weak down things like Ferrothorn for some of my other teammates to come through, which you will see. But it's just a really good threat, and it really helps put pressure onto the opposing team, given its amazing coverage and its ability, basically giving all of its moves Stab, which is it's same type attack bonus. It basically means that your Pokemon is the same type as the move that it's using, and it gives it like a 1.5 times boost, I think. I think that's what it is, but yeah. And it's just got amazing coverage. I can have Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse is on Greninja to hit things like Slowbro and Mew, which otherwise would be, well, Mew isn't really a problem, but to hit things like Slowbro, which is otherwise a problem, like a real problem for Zard. Because Zard cannot do anything to a Slowbro, even at like +2. Well, maybe at +2, but you get what I mean. I'm not going to be getting +2 easily, and Slowbro is just a real problem. So I'm just going to use Ice Beam, Hydro Pump, Dark Pulse for things like Slowbro, and then Gunk Shot as the last move. Gunk Shot's just really good at the moment because it allows it to hit what previously countered Greninja, things like Sylveon, things like Azumarill, what else, like Clefable, and Azumarill being another real problem for Zard. So Greninja's just amazing. Like Greninja plus Zardex is a really good combination because Greninja can get rid of things like Azumarill. It can weaken things down like Ferrothorn, so Charizard has to take less Iron Barbs damage and Riggy damage, and it also gets rid of things like Slowbro. And obviously, if they have to switch out Slowbro, then something's going to be taking a Life Orb, Stab, Dark Pulse, and it's just really good to break opposing teams. So the spread that I'm going to be using is just one that will, well, it's going to be mixed, obviously. So I'm going to use Naive, just so just to lower some def instead of defense, just to take less from Bishop's Sucker Punch. And then I'm going to put 40 into attack. This allows me to, I believe, have a better chance of OHKOing Azumarill, which is obviously appreciated with Charizard X on the team. And then just putting the rest into special attack just to hit as hard as possible. And I already know like all of the spreads that I will be using, say like for this Greninja one, I know that I need 40 in special attack, no, 40 in attack, sorry. But if you do not know what you need, then you can just go on here, and I'll just give a quick example showing Greninja's set. If I just give it OU all out attack, change it to naive, because that's what I'm using. Put the say if I've just got, I'll just keep hitting 0 in attack at the moment, and I'll pick Azumarill, since I'm pretty sure Azumarill is the bulkiest thing that really threatens me, that I will need to take out. I'll just use the Assault Vest set as an example, and I'll just give it Gunk Shot. So Gunk Shot at the moment does 97.2 to 114, so it has a 75% chance to OHKO. But obviously, if we can invest more in attack to make this chance higher, then we're going to. So, say if we look at this now, I put 28 in, and it's now got a 93.8% chance. So obviously we want it a bit higher than that, so 36, still not quite enough, but 40 is actually guaranteed, so this is basically how you work out your spreads, and it's a really useful tool just for optimizing your spreads and basically choosing what you have to KO, since Greninja doesn't really need the extra special attack when it hits everything super effectively, but you get what I mean. It's just a really good tool for working out spreads, so that's just an example for you. And that's basically Greninja, so yeah, like I said, got Greninja on there just because it's one of the best mons on offense right now. It helps put on a lot of pressure, again helps with keeping rocks up, as not much can defog against Greninja. I'm pretty sure Greninja beats every single defogger out there. I cannot remember if there is one, maybe Sizzle, but then again Sizzle can take a Hydro Pump, and I'm pretty sure that gets 2 hit KO'd, so Greninja's just a really good mon on offense, and just going to get on to the fourth. Now for the fourth one, I'm actually going to be using another one of offense's best tools, and that's being Bishop. One of the reasons for this is because of its ability Defiant, which gives it an attack, well, its attack is boosted by 2 for each of its stats that is lowered by a foe. So what this basically means is it's like a pseudo block for defog. Basically, if my opponent defogs and I switch this in on the defog, it gets a +2 boost in attack, which is absolutely amazing considering this thing also gets Sucker Punch, Stab Sucker Punch, and obviously just give it a Life Orb for that overkill. But it's just an amazing mon for breaking things like Ferrothorn. It comes in on things like Slowbro and gets off massive hits to break opposing teams. And it can also be used as a win condition, since Greninja, again, as I said before, it breaks my other mons. Greninja can weaken things like Ferrothorn, which put it in range of, say, +2 knockoff if it does come down to that. So it's just an amazing mon. It can both be a win condition and a break for my other mons. Why was there a space there? That was kind of weird, but I was going to use knockoff because it's an amazing move. Base 120 if the opponent has an item. Sucker Punch obviously for the priority, Iron Head, and then going to give it the SD, which is basically just for sweeping, breaking opposing teams. Say Bishop is also really good for mons like Hippowdon that like to come in on it. If I SD on the switch to Hippowdon, then I can go for the knockoff next turn, and then I think it does about like, I want to say 60 to 70% even to a defensive Hippowdon. And I also then get rid of its leftovers, which is amazing for Charizard to be able to plow through the opposing team, because that's one less thing that'll be walling it. So Bishop just basically is a really good break for my other mons, and Greninja also breaks really well for it, so it's basically the perfect fit. And obviously keeping hazards up is really appreciated on offense, and Bishop is another way of helping this happen. But just going to go max speed to outspeed things like Rotom and hit them hard, which again can't really be bothering for Charizard, but it's just nice to get them out of the way so they can't get off like a Hydro Pump or something. Just every little thing for Zard is appreciated. But they are just going to go max attack. There's no reason to invest in bulk, and max attack just allows me to hit things a lot harder. So that's pretty much Bishop in a nutshell. But yeah, it's really powerful mon on offense, and I like to use it on pretty much every offensive team just because of its amazing threat. Like just having it in the back stops people from going for defog, and the hazard control is just really appreciated. So I'm just going to hop into the fifth mon now. So I'm 4 mons in, and I'm just going to take a quick look at the viability thread just to see if there's anything that I'm outstandingly weak to. So have a look at Greninja. I don't think, to be honest, if your team is weak to Greninja, I don't think you should worry too much since there's really not much you can do about it right now. It's just such an amazing mon, especially to offensive teams. It's probably one of the offense's biggest threats right now. And I'm obviously going to be weak to it, but I do have things like Bishop Sucker Punch to come in after it goes for Ice Beam. I can speed tie it with my own Greninja and go for Gunk Shot. Charizard, if it is Mega Evolved, can actually take a hit. So I'm really not too weak to Greninja than it actually looks, but it's definitely a threat, but it's really not something that you can prepare too much for at the moment, unless you want to run a low Momola on offense, which I'm not going to do. So looking at other things, so we got Landorus T. Landorus T is looking to be very annoying at the moment. Bishop can revenge it, but it is going to be very, very, very annoying. So I may have to be looking into getting something for that soon. But one of the main ones that I'm worried about at the moment is Keldeo. Since Keldeo is very common at the moment, and it completely plows through my team, so one mon that in OU that actually checks Keldeo really, really well, probably one of its best checks on offense right now is Latios, so I'm definitely looking to get one of these onto my team. Now, I'm going to be using a Life Orb set, and I would normally be using Defog, but considering I have a Suicide lead, Defoggers aren't really appreciated, since Defogging also gets rid of your own rocks as well as your opponents, and again, you're suiciding a mon for rocks. I don't really want to be getting rid of them. Plus, the team really isn't too bothered about rocks apart from Charizard. But when it's Mega Evolved, it's obviously less weak to them. But anyway, that's another thing. Obviously, just going to give it Draco and Psyshock to hit both defenses and to give it max potential for its power output. I'm going to give it. I'm actually going to be using Calm Mind on this because it sets up on quite a lot late game, and it's a really nice sweeper, and it gives me another win condition potentially, and just going to put Roost in the last slot just to help it set up on mons. But I actually really like this set, especially things like Zapdos like to come in Latios, like Spadef Zapdos, because they can take a Draco, Roost up, and basically stall them out with Toxic or even Heat Wave or something dumb like that. But this Latios set actually sets up on things like that, so things that previously walled Latios can be set up on by this set, which is why I really like it. And I'm just going to be using Timid, Max Speed, Max Special Attack, just because that's honestly, well, it's just the most offensive spread, and it really doesn't need too much bulk. And that's basically Latios spread. Latios is basically there just to take hits from Keldeo. And obviously it's got Roost for its longevity, and Calm Mind to basically means that Latios can be a late game win condition. And it's also good to get off +1 Dracos on things like Ferrothorn to break for Bisharp. And that's also really appreciated, and also for things like some Mega Slowbro. I'm pretty sure that a Draco does not kill, and it can just slack off, and Calm Mind is basically just to break things like really, really nicely, and it does work really nice. So just going to get off onto the 6th mon. So I've got 5 mons, and what I'm basically going to look for in my last is going to be kind of like a pivot, something that can stop potential setup sweepers, which my team do appear to be weak to, especially things like opposing Zardex. If that thing gets up 1 Dragon Dance, I kind of have to sack a mon to force it to go for Outrage, say something like Latios, then go into Bisharp, get +2, hope it gets to a 3-turn Outrage, go for Sucker Punch, and I don't even think that then kills it. So I am extremely weak to that right now. And I'm also really weak to one mon that I mentioned earlier, which was opposing Landorus T. And basically, one mon that takes on both of these decently well is actually a Landorus T of my own. So that is what I'm going to be using. I am going to be using a Choice Scarfed Landorus T just to basically, it's just to check things like Greninja, which are otherwise a big problem for me at the moment. It's just another late game sweeper potentially. It can revenge +1 Adamant Zardexes after a Dragon Dance, which is really appreciated for the team considering how weak I am to Zardex. Obviously Jolly Zardex, when played well, kind of 6-0s me, but hey ho, you can't cover everything on offense. But I'm going to be using Edgequake on this just because it's a great combination, hitting both things like steals and flying at the same time, which is really, really nice. And I'm going to be using Superpower on this also just to check things like Megalopony, which are otherwise a really big problem for my team at the moment. Say Charizard takes a return, but I like to use Charizard as my win condition, so that thing taking damage isn't really good for me. Greninja dies to high jump kick, Bisharp dies to high jump kick, Latios can take a return. Well, I don't think I think it can take a nice punch just about, but I don't really want to be sacking Mons. But Landorus is just basically here to check Megalopony as a pivot, check +1 Adamant Zardex. It can also switch into things like Gallade. It's just a defensive pivot really that can check Greninja, and obviously going to use U-turn as the last move just to it's just good for offensive momentum. And spread that I'm going to be using 232 in speed. This allows it to outspeed Adamant Excadrill, and it also lets it outslow other Landorus that like to go max, which means that I can get off a slower U-turn than them, which means that I do get offensive momentum. Say if one of them U-turns against me, they then have to switch out, and if I then U-turn after they have switched out, then I gain momentum because I can then choose what to go into against what they went out to, if that makes sense. But just going to run max attack just for, obviously, to hit the hardest as I can possible. I'm going to go Jolly just to outspeed things like +1 Adamant Zard, but that's basically the team. Shout outs to Simi who helped build this with me, and I just basically went through the building process, and we kind of like done half and half, so a shout out to him, he's a good friend of mine. But that's going to be pretty much it for the video. Originally I was thinking of doing every single playstyle, like I said, balance, stall and hyper offense in one video, but I figured it would end up being like an hour long, and I would have thought that none of you really want to watch an hour-long video on team building. So I'm basically just going to do them in separate parts. So this is obviously the hyper offense one, and I'm hoping that you got something out of this. If you did, then great. Leave a comment. Let me know what helped you, what you think I could have maybe done better, because I'm always looking to improve, guys. And yeah, I hope this helped you, and I'll see you next time, guys. See you in the balance episode. Peace.